you can put yourself through that pain if you want to.
That's great. Thank you, guys. Next question. What is one of the best parts about university compared to high school?
I could take that if, yeah, just to give you guys some time. Like, I think it's kind of like a good and a bad thing, the freedom. And I'm sure that's something you guys are all curious about. In university, you can do literally whatever you want. You can take whatever courses you want. And at SFU, within your lower division and upper division, you can basically take any course in any order. So that gives you complete freedom over like how you're going to go through school and how you're going to do your education. And that is a really good thing for people who want that freedom to do whatever they want. If you're the type of person who needs structure, however, that could be a little bit overwhelming. And I think that that's something that might be different from high school is there's nobody telling you this is the course you need to take here, this is the course you need here. It's up to you to really decide that. The good thing though is they do have academic advisors at SFU that you can talk to that can get you through your course planning and deciding the best way to lay things out. Because some courses are harder and easier than others. And if you stack all your hard courses in one semester, then you might handicap yourself in that way.
I see. Wow. Yeah, definitely for attendees, you still have some time until university, but all of these things are considerations to take into, and SFU is definitely a great school. Okay, I'm going to ask a default question if the attendees do not yet have many other questions to ask. So since all of you are in BD, just to make sure, is there an interview to get in?
So from my application year, I've known previous application years, like my sister graduated from SFU like 3 years ago, and she did her interview like long time ago, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. Just check the website in first. But I'm pretty sure SFU phased that out. And I think they just really want to look at your written part of your application and see what you really like done in school and just your academics.
Great. So yeah, overall for attendees, honestly, SFU is definitely a great school, and overall the application process will be a journey, but it will be one that's definitely worth it. Next question. How many courses do you guys recommend taking in first year? And by how many, a specific number?
I'll take that. So if like you're working, like I said before, maybe like try out 3. If that's too much, do 2. But if you're not working, maybe you can do the course load, or if you're planning to do like clubs, 3 to 4. And first semester, I think 3 is like solid for SFU, or 4. But if you can do more, especially in the second semester, or if you plan on taking summer courses, because that's open as well for SFU, take like 4 or 3 if you can manage it. Some people take like 5 or 6, I've heard, but it depends on like the person and your major as well. So yeah.
Great, thank you, Arianne.
I just want to add on a bit to that. So when you just because you're planning your schedule, you also have to remember like which courses you should take with the beginning. So yeah, like taking 4 is best if you're not doing anything else, if you're not planning to do much in your first semester, and then just plan on from there.
Great, thank you so much. And so it turns out that we don't have many more Q&A questions, but we still have 6 minutes left for any attendees who want to ask more questions to our SFU panelists. That would be great. But for now, I'm still going to ask some more default questions. Overall, Ooh, this is a great question. Food around the SFU campuses, is it good?
I can take that because I've been there the longest. I've had to endure it the longest. I will say you'll probably end up eating way too many farmers wraps from Tim Hortons, or at least that's what I eat because I park in that building. But there are quite a few restaurants up there. There's like a little kind of village just outside of the university campus. It's called Cornerstone. Very cute. There's like a Starbucks, a Donair place, pizza places, Chinese food. There's also a Nestor's supermarket. So there's plenty of places to get food. I would say if you guys, you're coming from Point Grey, so the one thing I wish I had up there, I think you can guess, McDonald's. We don't have one up there. The closest one is on Hastings. You got to drive down the mountain to get to it. Yeah, that's it.
No, yeah, like Jaden said, there's like 2 like Tim Hortons at SFU, so you'll get a fair share of that, but they're on like both ends of the campuses. So you decide which one you want to go to. Yeah, and like that little like village that Nathan said, that Jaden said, there's like an A&W, there's a Uncle Fatty's, there's like a bunch of food up there. So you actually have like abundance of food. And then there's also a separate building that's like in the middle of campus. That's like also like another food court, which has like Mexican food, and like a rip off Bubble Waffle Cafe. Yeah, it's not like the real thing. It's like a rip off of it. And then there's like Indian food there and like Korean food. And there's also a Bubble World. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, we have some more panelist questions. Do you recommend, oh, sorry, this first question. If you applied to other universities as well, how was SFU's application process different from other universities?
I'll take that. I only did like 3. I applied to 3, so like the big 3, Langara, UBC, and SFU. So for like our year, Victor said previously, we didn't need like an interview or anything. We just needed to fill out the application and submit all of our questions and paragraphs online. But for UBC, we had to do a pre-recorded interview. I don't know if they like still do that, but you had to do that on top of their whole application thing as well. So yeah, I guess that was like one of the only differences, especially applying to like the business major, but that's all I know.
I see. And so we have 2 more questions until we are going to end SFU. So if any of the attendees want to put in a quick question, that would be great. So very quickly, do you recommend living in dorms during first year?
Well, I think everybody should answer this. Personally, I wouldn't. Mostly because if you don't have a car and you're trying to go to SFU and you're living on campus, it's really difficult to get to the rest of the world. Since it is like so far away, the only way to get down or up the mountain is by bus if you don't have a car. And that can take a little bit of time. And in the snow, the buses do shut down. I would say like the only reason I would live on campus is if literally all my friends lived on campus, so I never had to go anywhere, or I wanted to spend all my time studying. So you're minimizing the travel time and you're spending all of your time on campus. Like that would help quite a bit. But otherwise, I'd say living at home or living somewhere else not on campus is most likely better.
Great, thank you, Jaden. And our last question, most likely, and we're going to end at 11:53. How did COVID affect your life in university? That's a big one.
Well, so COVID interrupted my spring semester 75% of the way in. Right when it started, the professors really unsure on like what we should like what's really the process and how we should continue on our course material. But now that we're in the fall semester of 2020, the school has mostly transitioned smoothly to an online platform. Most classes are off Zoom or like the cat or like the educational homepage. I'm not sure because you guys don't really have that. But like it is tough for me personally to do that at home because there's so many things going on in my life, like just like, oh, I have family members, oh, I have my own personal life too. So like at school I could just sit there and focus on school, but now that I'm home, it's like all of that combined into like one thing.
Great. Thank you so much, Victor. And this concludes our university conference for SFU panelists. So Victor, Arianne, and Jaden, thank you so much for coming in. And if you guys have any more questions for these SFU panelists, we may have a platform later on for people to connect with them. But other than that, thank you so much. We're now going to move on to our UofT panelists. And all right, so Jennifer Liu and Helena Chi and Evan Ng, if you guys could turn on your cameras, that would be great. Hi guys. So
Hello.
Hi.
welcome. So these are our UofT panelists, and it's so great to be seeing you guys. And I'm just going to let you guys introduce yourselves very quickly, and then we'll get into some questions. So first, let's have Jennifer introduce herself.
Hi. Yes, I graduated from Point Grey in 2017. So now I'm a fourth year at UofT studying computer science. Except I'll be graduating a year late because I've been completing some internships during my university time. So I've interned at RBC and Google, and I'll be taking a year off to intern at Datadog, Facebook, and Snapchat. Not through the co-op program. I can explain this later. I guess that's it for me.
Nice, thank you. Next up, we have Helena. Helena, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. So I graduated from Point Grey in 2019, not too long ago. I'm in second year at UofT right now. I'm studying commerce, and so far I've just been doing online school at home, and I'm just studying full-time right now.
Thank you, Helena. And just a note to attendees, if you have any questions, please send them into the Q&A chat. And Evan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Evan, and I also graduated same year as Jen, actually. So we know each other, and yeah, so 2017, and I'm planning to graduate in 2021 in May. And I study jazz performance and drums. And so I am in the Faculty of Music. So if anyone has any questions about, music, what the audition process of that is, I will be happy to answer them as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, so now we're going to go into our first panelist question, and any panelist can take the stand. How is it like living in the GTA? How different is it from here in Vancouver?
I can go. Yeah, it's great. So I guess I'm guessing most people at Point Grey live near Point Grey. So living in the GTA, specifically UofT, has 3 campuses: the Scarborough, Mississauga, and downtown. They're all pretty far away. I think all 3 of us are at the downtown campus. So that's actually quite different because you're more like in the middle of everything, especially if you live in downtown or live on res. I've just been eating a lot more food, going to a lot more restaurants. It is nice, gets extremely cold I didn't realize that winter ended in April until I moved to Toronto, but otherwise it's nice. You get a lot more sun and always stuff to do. Less outdoorsy things are less accessible than they are in Vancouver, but more city things to do.
Yeah, I would say like the same as well. And if you are living downtown, there are a lot of main streets. So if you do live like somewhere where there is a main street, it's going to be very noisy. So I guess that's something that might be different from if you live around like Kerrisdale, Dunbar, Kitts area. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind as well. But like what Jen said, there's like a lot of things to do because you're really living just downtown. There's like Cineplex, there's a bunch of grocery shops everywhere, and stuff like that. So there's always something to do.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is pretty close and convenient to access. And if you live like downtown, I would say the transportation system is a lot better than a lot of Vancouver, because they have like the subway, and then the buses usually come pretty quickly, so it's more efficient.
They are louder though. That is one thing. And it's underground. Yeah.
I've been lucky to not have a commute, and so mostly just walking around a lot. Although the campus, it does take like 15 minutes to get from one corner to the other one. But otherwise, it's nice that you can just walk to like anything you want to do.
Yeah, another thing is that I actually use something called bike share. So there's something here in Toronto where there's something called bike share. So basically I have like a bike card, and like throughout the entire downtown area of Toronto, they basically have bikes just parked. And basically all you have to do is just like put your card in and you can just bike anywhere. For at least 30 minutes until you have to be overcharged, but otherwise you can get somewhere in like less than 30 minutes.
That's great. Thank you so much, guys. Wow, Toronto sounds really fascinating. All right, our next question. Was UofT your first choice for universities? Why or why not?
It was close to first choice for me. So I'm computer science, so I think a lot of people who want to study it, a lot of people, and mine, I think Waterloo was up there in terms of choices. That was mostly for their co-op program. It's very strong. And the UofT has a slightly different co-op program where they do a year-long one instead of like Waterloo does 6 shorter ones. So I kind of DIY'd the Waterloo version for myself, where I'm doing a bunch of shorter ones. So UofT is pretty flexible that you can pause and stuff in school. But it was quite a top choice for me. Also, I wanted to move out. Otherwise, I think UBC would be a great choice as well. But yeah, we have a really strong computer science program here, great profs. And then obviously you just wanted to explore the city here.
Great, thank you. And wow, yeah, UofT, definitely a big choice for lots of our attendees today. Next question. I heard that most programs in UofT only look at grades, but the computer science program requires a personal profile when applying. How was the personal profile section like?
Okay, so this one's for me. So interesting, the personal profile has only been a recent addition. I was actually part of the ambassadors who are giving our input. So in previous years, it was purely marks based, and then you didn't technically get into computer science until after your first year. So they take into account based on your first year course performance, that determined whether or not you were going to get into second year. I think Helena probably explained that like for Rotman, there's a cutoff for the grades you need in your courses. The old UT system was you had to compete, and it was just like the top percentage gets in. So that was really stressful for students. So we changed it to be like a more competitive, a more holistic thing. So that's why we have this personal profile now. And then once you get in, you're basically guaranteed a spot as long as you keep up like some minimum grade. But the personal profile, so I can't personally talk about what I wrote on mine, but they just kind of want to see your enthusiasm. You don't actually need to have programming experience to enter the program.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. And for the other two panelists, actually, is there a personal profile for your specific application?
Yeah, I guess I can go first. For me, they wanted to make sure that I actually had enough credit for music. So that was like, for example, taking RCM, even for drummers like me, like I play piano and stuff like that. So they would actually, the chances of getting in would be higher for me than someone who was just playing drums. Like the more instruments that you play with, the more kind of like with RCM and everything, that kind of validates that you are a musician and you're not just playing. But you've gone through the process, and I think you have to be at least level 8. So that's another thing. And theory wise, and you also have to take an entrance exam on theory, and then you also have to do like an interview in person, as well as it's like a whole kind of different interview thing for music. But yeah.
Thank you, Evan. And Helena, is there a personal profile for your specific application?
Yes, there is. I would say it's kind of similar to Sauter's requirement for personal profile, although without like several questions that you have to write. So for Rotman, you have to submit your transcript for grades, and then I think we look at your top 6 courses for grades. And then for the personal profile part, you have to answer 2 questions, short answer. And I think they give you one of them beforehand. So they'll give you one of them beforehand, and then the other one you just kind of think of like right on the spot. And you also have to do like record yourself answering a question for the video part. And for Sauter, you have to do 2. I think that for Ramen is just 1 video question, and that is the personal profile part. And you get like 90 seconds or 2 minutes. I forgot.
Thank you, Helena. Very, very useful. Okay, for our next Q&A question, specifically for Evan, I'm very curious. Where do you practice?
Yeah, so technically, since I'm actually not living on dorm, I'm actually living like around Chinatown. The rent is super cheap, but it's also like, it's great for groceries and everything. But yeah, where I practice is usually at the Jazz Building. And that is located around Bay and Wellesley. Or if you want the actual address, it's 90 Wellesley. And that's for drums. And in the jazz program. But there's also another building that you can go to called the Edward Johnson Building, which is more towards St. George and University. And that one is more for classical people and who are studying in the classical program. But like pianists, bassists, and horn players can also book those rooms, even if you're in the jazz program as well. It's just that you just have to go online and just book it online and stuff like that. But for me, I can't practice there because there's no drums there. So for me, it's usually 90 Wellesley. And I think you can book it for at least 2 hours. But sometimes I like to see if like there's no one booking the room afterwards, and I just practice in there for like 4 or 5 hours. So yeah.
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question. How different is first year math compared to Calculus 12 / AP Calculus 12 from when you were in point grade?
Okay, so this is a good question. At UofT, there's actually many different math courses. So Helena probably has a different math class for Rotman. So under the new computer science requirements, you have to take a math class called Math 137. So this is very different from AP Calc. You'll still need all the stuff you learned, but they approach it in a completely different way. There's something called like proofs, where you really learn the theory behind the math, and you prove things about math. So it's actually a lot of some writing involved, but it's very much like a logic-based course. Then for there's another course called Math 135. That's what most biology, the life science students will take that one. That one's a lot closer to AP Calculus, more like computational based, like here's this integral, like solve it. Then there's the engineering math, which I think is probably more similar to the life science math, but it's also, I think, probably quite hard. But that's like probably closer to that one where it's more computation based. And I guess Helena can discuss the Rotman math.
Yeah, so like Jen said, there's a bunch of different types of math courses. For Rotman, we have to take Math 133, and I think it's the easiest math course at UofT. And a lot of, if you want to do arts, but you want to do like international relations or maybe an econ major, I think you can do 133 as well. Actually, econ, you might have to do 135, but Rotman is 133. And for this one, I would say that about half the course kind of overlaps with high school math. When we started taking this course, we actually covered some things that were in pre-calc, like from grade 10 and 11. And then we did like derivatives, integrals, and then we didn't really start doing stuff beyond my high school calculus course until February. Oh, I took calculus 12. And so I would say it's not too different from high school math, at least in the beginning.
I forgot to mention one more math. So 137 is like kind of logic based, like proving stuff. The one even more intense than that, that's Math 157. So if you're a math major or math specialist, this is the one you would take, and it gets really deep into the theory of math. And the cool thing is you can take the harder ones and then drop down. You can definitely drop from 157 after a couple of weeks. A portion of the class will drop down to 137, and it's a pretty smooth process. So you don't have to worry too much like about that. But I will say I think 137 is the standard one for CS, and you used to be able to do 135 for CS, but now it's just the middle one. Basically, there's a bunch of options, and you can explore that.
Thank you, Jennifer and Helena. Yes, lots of our attendees are a bit frazzled with math at the moment, but we're gonna make it through. All right. I think I will pass on this question to anyone to take. Was it difficult to keep up with your workload? I heard it was hard to get in, but even harder to do well in the program. So answer based on your own program.
Okay, I'll go really fast. I think for me, second year was probably the hardest year for me. Just a lot of courses that I had to take, and like third year was kind of like where you had to find a specific program in that program. So for example, like if you want to go into arranging, you'd have to figure that out if you want to go into arranging. If you want to like take more classes on improvisation, then you have to do that. And the workload for me in second year was a lot. And I would say that the interview and the audition process was very intense for me. And it wasn't until like I got into the workload where I was like, oh man, this is like crazy for me. And UofT is considered to be one of the best schools for music. So whoever is in music and wants to go into music, UofT, McGill, or Capilano. But there's a reason why I went to UofT. So yeah.
Thank you, Evan. And maybe for Helena or Jennifer, how hard was your workload, or perhaps what year do you find the workload to be the hardest?
Sure. Yeah, so I think computer science at UofT has like a bad reputation of being stressful. But the department is like actively working on making that, like what I said, like how first year, if you get into the program, it's more of a guarantee instead of previously to compete. So I think for me personally, first year is stressful because I had to like recompete again to get into the program, but that should be solved now. It is different because they don't handhold you at all in university like they would in high school. Like in high school, I think in math you have like 10 different tests, like a test for every chapter. Whereas at university, there might be like a midterm in the middle and a final at the end. And it's really up to you to make sure you don't fall behind. At the same time, university is more flexible in some ways, like how many courses you want to take or like which courses you want to take. So I think first year is a step up, like the transitioning into university. Second year is a step up because you have to take a lot more CS classes instead of just the intro ones. And I guess like a third, fourth year, like the content does keep getting harder, obviously. But I would say like don't be too scared by like the rumors or like I guess what I'm saying is like the profs, like people do want to see you succeed at this school, and there are resources out there if you seek it out. Yeah. And then I guess if you're going to grad school, there probably would be more pressure to keep your GPA up. But if you're, let's say, going to industry, obviously you still want to learn everything, but like there's less of the pressure of like, I need to get like a 95 or I need to get like, well, in high school, I feel like that's how a lot of people feel. It's like I need to get whatever grade for admission. So I think that pressure is lessened.
Thank you, Jennifer. And for Helena, how is the workload overall for Rotman?
I think that the workload is definitely like more than people expect. And I would say it was harder compared to the application process. For first year, there's more of a pressure because once you get admitted to Rotman, you have to keep a certain minimum required grade for your required courses to move on to second year. Those are for math and econ and this course called Introduction to Management. So you have to keep up, you have to do 2 econ courses in first year, micro econ and macro econ. And for those, you have to keep up 63%. And then you also have to get 63 in math. And then for Introduction to Management, you have to get 67% to move on to second year. And if you don't meet the requirement for one of them, you can retake in the summer. So you do have some like some grace, I guess. But I would say the biggest shock was econ because it is very different from econ 12. Lots more workload and sometimes you just don't know what to expect on the tests. But I think that if you just put in effort and try not to like skip lectures or fall behind, then you can make it through. And for workload, I think second year is the hardest because you have to do 2 econs in both semesters. So that's definitely a challenge for a lot of Rotman students. And online learning does not help. So I would hope I can make it through that.
Thank you so much. And unfortunately, we have to wrap this up now because I believe many of the attendees have online class to get to, but thank you so much, Evan, Helena, and Jennifer. You guys were amazing panelists, and I'm pretty sure the attendees really appreciated you guys. And overall, for attendees, if you know of someone who missed this lecture, webinar, we have recorded it and we will post it to YouTube. But overall, thank you panelists for coming. And
it's our pleasure. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.